This video can be considered my off-season blueprint for the Baltimore Ravens or what I'm going to focus on as a content creator, what I believe the Ravens need to address in free agency and draft acquisition in order to still be playing football 12 months from today, to survive championship game Sunday, get Lamar Jackson into his first Super Bowl. I think he'll perform under the brightest lights. He's the best player in the league, in my opinion. I've thought that for a long time. This is not going to have any film associated with it. I will have other pictures or data to show just besides these rotating shots you see here. First of all, shout out to the Ravens front office and Todd Monken for getting something done. There's no salary cap on coaches like Frank and a couple of other people in our Discord say often. It's a brilliant move to get him back for another season. A borderline historic offense, really a great first step for the offseason, allowing Lamar and the offense to hit the ground running in 2025 with the guys that are returning. If we address one key spot or one key position, it's pretty obvious which one I'm going to focus on. More on that later. We do have 2 weeks before the Chiefs and the Eagles will battle in the Super Bowl. Once again, the Ravens will not have an opportunity to perform there, despite an extremely talented offense, one that set records. Additional to that, a defense that in the last 2 months of the season played extremely well. Zach Orr's group allowed, I think, 16.55 points per game since our Week 11 loss to the Steelers. They finished second in the NFL in sacks, or tied for second, I believe, with 53. How can a team with so much talent, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, wide receiver and Rashad Bateman, who would be the fourth or fifth or maybe sixth in the pecking order from a touches standpoint, he had 9 touchdowns. Mark Andrews, I think, had 10 or 11. A defense that was playing complementary football. How can we not even repeat the level that was achieved in 2023? Even though we wasted home field advantage losing to the Chiefs, we did get a chance to perform on championship game Sunday. I've got 2 reasons, and I think they're quite obvious, one of which we've talked about, a lot of us, for the last couple of weeks, and that's turnovers. Also, inconsistent offensive line play. The Ravens right now are sitting at 11 draft picks for the 2025 draft. Really, turnovers doesn't get to the whole point. It's playoff turnovers. We were third best in the NFL, as you can see. There's a lot of data there, but turnovers, we were third best in the league at not turning the football over. Only 11 in 2024. Lamar was spectacular. He only threw 4 interceptions, and he was also only sacked 23 times. The turnovers really came back to haunt us twice, right? The road loss to the Steelers. Derrick Henry had a fumble that was forced from behind or the side by Nick Herbig. Lamar had that crazy interception. Peyton Wilson really stole it away from Justice Hill. Isaiah Likely also got stripped by Patrick Queen into the boundary on a late second quarter screen. And then the 3 turnovers last week, or 2 weeks ago at this point, against the Bills, they hurt worse, obviously, because they didn't stop us organically. I'm leading to my point about the offensive line. Look, we averaged 7.3 yards per play against Buffalo, still lost 27-25, even while being -3 in the turnover margin on the road. No matter how conservative the opponent's offense is, when you have an offensive line and talent with Josh Allen and Cook, the running back, the Bills are going to be able to produce yards. That's where I'm going to begin my offseason blueprint. In order to make my points, I'm going to kind of have to compare the Ravens' offensive line to the Bills and the Chiefs. I don't think we win playoffs games against them until we improve our offensive line. We may not even, in fact, win the AFC North without an improved offensive line, given our schedule here. That's my number one point. Look, do we have to have the top O-line in the league? No. Top 3? I don't know, maybe. But just more consistent, more reliable, one with a higher floor. A higher floor than we rolled out with this year. It wasn't good enough to me. I get it. Others may disagree, say certain guys improved. Collectively, we need to upgrade the talent level. And I'm already saying or thinking from the perspective that Ronnie Stanley is not here because he's currently not under contract for 2025. Look, are there other positions of need? Of course, right? Corner, you've got the probable exit of Brandon Stevens. I'm out there personally in terms of, I wish him well and success. I hope he gets paid, but I hope it's not in Baltimore. Outside linebacker, somewhere in the draft, yeah, we've got to pick up a player that could develop, get on that developmental track of Atavius Robinson or an Odafe Owe. Even those guys are different players. Van Noy's only under contract for 1 more year, 2025. I think Owe as well. Tavius Robinson and Adisa Isaac are in different places, but they're both good talents. I think obviously Robinson's further along. Somewhere in the draft, I think we've got to get another one of those guys. I don't think it should be in the top 3, but that's going to be one of the aspects or one of the angles I'm going to talk about in this video. If we address offensive line, at least one position in free agency, then we have a little bit more freedom in the draft. If a great edged or outside linebacker defender is there at 27 or there at 59 or 91, something like that. I want to focus, my brain actually is forced to focus on offensive line. Will there be a difficult choice in at 27 or 59? Of course, we may have a really good outside linebacker and an offensive lineman, or maybe even a corner sitting there waiting to be taken. And the Ravens will have to decide which one they want to go after. I think it's kind of dependent on what happens before that, right? In free agency. I want to talk about the path to being able to reproduce some of the things we saw this past weekend. So, in looking at our loss to the Bills, I'll be honest with you, I don't really pay attention to ADOT, average depth of target, but I recognize it's a viable stat. It's a very useful one. It's just one data point. But when something like that lines up with our eyes, meaning the stats and the average depth of target lines up with our eyes, we can make, I think, larger conclusions than just if we used one data point. Here's what I mean. I think that all 4 of the teams that played this past weekend were utilizing very conservative strategies, not turning the football over, repeatable concepts that could gain yards, and in fact, create as many 2nd and 4s, 3rd and 2, and yes, possibly 4th and 1 situations as possible. Clearly, the largest example is the Eagles with the tush push, but the Commanders go for it on 4th and 2, 4th and 1 more than anyone else. The Bills would fall and would probably straddle between the two, right? They certainly go for it on 4th down a lot. So they're playing 4-down football often, no matter where the ball is, and they'd probably have 1 foot in the Eagles category with the tush push and Josh Allen, and then 1 foot in the category with the Commanders where they're running, I would say, normal or regular 4th down concepts in order to gain 2 or 3 yards. Let me be a little bit specific. In last night's Chiefs-Bills game, there was 67 recorded run plays and 60 passes, so pretty balanced. Some of the quarterback runs, obviously, by Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes were scrambles, or maybe those designed semi-roll plays that the Chiefs used to exploit the Bills' nickel defense. The point is, they definitely relied on the run game, and they could offer enough protection of the quarterback that gave him time or opportunity to scramble on an actual pass play where there were actually routes being run. I don't know why the shift has been towards more run concepts, more run plays, but it seems like that's a pattern to me, one that I think other people have noticed and mentioned in the comment section. I would say that maybe the run game never went away, but we certainly have 4 teams that provide us a lot of data, 2 remaining now, the Chiefs and the Eagles. I don't know if it's the preponderance of too high structures and split field coverages, or whether it's more teams like the Eagles and the Commanders having run-pass tag plays, meaning there's a run concept to one side and a pass play to the other. Quarterback can recognize things pre-snap and just kind of get to the right play. I also don't think we did a great job against the Buffalo Bills in attacking them horizontally, to be honest with you. I'm talking about the Ravens offense in the AFC divisional round. The Chiefs went after it. I felt like Leonardo DiCaprio in that gif or that meme, like pointing at the TV, jet sweeps, the Y-hide stuff, the mesh traffic to finish the game with the completion to Pirine, the semi-roll with Mahomes. Anyway, the point is there's playoff football that is always going to an extent, is always going to rely on your offensive line's ability to win, handle things at an elite level and execute. And we just could not do that consistently at that level. The Bills' defensive tackles gave us real problems, especially early in the game. Look at the first 2 run concepts of the game. Yes, we got things going in the second half. We needed to, right? But early in the game, they were certainly giving us trouble when we wanted to run the football. Justice Hill's energy was badass. Derek Henry certainly had an impact, I think, over the course of 3 drives, producing a lot of yards. There's definitely going to be question marks on this offensive line in 2025. Obviously, the first one is Ronnie Stanley. I guess actually he could be the 3rd, but it's certainly left guard and left tackle. Let's start there. I don't think we got in 2024 the 2019 level of play from Ronnie Stanley, the pre-injury type of performance, but we definitely got something at or above the level of 2022. Remember, he returned in week 5. He immediately gave us an upgrade, someone who could handle opposing teams, pass rusher, D end, outside linebacker in a one-on-one situation. We got that guy. 2023, after he got hurt, he had extreme difficulty anchoring, dealing with bull rush moves, moving laterally. Way better than that. I think 2023 is the anomaly. Regardless of where you think Stanley's performance was, we need him or someone like him. We could have massive issues on the left side of the offensive line if we don't bring back Ronnie Stanley or someone comparable, and we don't upgrade or improve at left guard. We clearly need to. Could Voorhees be that guy? Sure. I want competition. And I think that's one of the reasons there was so much frustration with Falele, is that there appeared to be zero competition at right guard. I would like to see competition, meaning it would have been great if Voorhees could have got more reps or more snaps this season. I understand he had an injury to deal with. From a content creation standpoint, and someone who has a shit ton of film to go over, well, starting now, unfortunately, because we're not playing in the Super Bowl, I think a better offensive line puts this offense, puts Lamar, Derrick Henry, in more repeatable situations that'll create conflict for the defense. And so let me kind of start there. The difference, like I said, between the four teams that were alive this weekend, whether it's, whatever system they're running, under center, shotgun, motion, no motion, option, or not, the point is creating reliable, repeatable offensive structures that we can use as a baseline to gain yards in a safe manner. That is the largest separator for me between Mahomes and Jalen Hurts and what they have right now with their offensive line and the creative, strategic minds they have running their offenses than the quarterbacks that are going to sit home and watch. That some of them are great, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, some of them are really good to very good to sometimes great, Jared Goff, Matt Stafford, among others. Can we get to 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5 more often? I don't know that we need that 4-down mentality of the Bills, Eagles, and Commanders. I'm actually going to separate the 4-down mentality from a evaluation standpoint here, a discussion. But it does kind of speak to the approach, and here's what I mean. Even the Chiefs in yesterday's game against the Bills, they had two situations. I think one was a 2nd and 9 and one was a 2nd and 8, and they run the football and create and gain positive yards out of it. That kind of looked like something foreign to me because we don't generally do that. It almost kind of looked like when you watch international basketball for the first time and you see the free throw lane kind of angled and shaped weird. It's like, what is that? It's a foreign concept. I think if we cannot either bring back Ronnie Stanley at a appropriate price or find someone comparable, and we don't upgrade left guard, we could have serious issues along the left side of the offensive line. That's 1 year after replacing the right side of the offensive line, Morgan Moses and Kevin Zeitler. I do think the Ravens are going to stay put at right guard. I don't think that we have a high ceiling there with Falele, but number one, it's a cheap option. It doesn't require any further commitment of resources for 2025. And if we don't handle Ronnie Stanley in free agency, or someone in free agency, and really what kind of left tackles are going to be out there at a price point that we can handle before the draft, the floor is really, really low, if you ask me, at right guard. But so is the ceiling, and I recognize that other people are not going to agree with that, but the film backs it up, particularly the Buffalo game early. But let's operate as if we have this: Linderbaum, Falele, and Rosengarten from center to right tackle on out. We're going to get picks 27, 59, and 91. And then we kind of have two picks stacked or clustered together, 127 and 135. I think that the Ravens might be parting with one of those two picks. And I don't mean to move up to 14 or move up to 16. Not at all. The price tag is going to be too high. I think we're going to go 2022 again with the number of selections we have, meaning shotgun spread type stuff, pellets. And what I mean by throw as many of those darts out there as possible and see if we can land some. And we certainly did a great job with that in the draft where we took Likely, Falele, Kolar, among others. But the problem with that strategy a little bit is most of our picks here are 6th and 7th rounders. I believe we have 4 6-rounders, counting the comp picks, and then 1 in the 7th. To me, this looks like a move around the draft board type of year. And I don't mean move back into the first round or try to get 2 first-round picks. Look, I'd be all for that, but I just don't think that's going to occur. I'm saying somewhere between 50 and 105 move back in there another manner, try to find someone that we really want and are extremely high on. Essentially, my assertion here is I don't know that we're going to use all 5 picks 20, 27, 59, 91, and then the 127, 135 turn. I think those 2 picks there in a row, we're going to move on from one of them. But if we stay put, we have 5 selections in a span of 108 spots. I do really like that, to be honest with you. The salary cap is going to look, obviously vastly different once Marcus Williams goes off the books. These guys that are spot shadowed here, or highlighted, I should say, are the ones that I think the Ravens will probably look at, bringing back, depending on price point. Ricard would be the one that, who knows what he would look like from a salary construction standpoint. I think last year he was just under $4 million in salary, $3,750,000. But in any case, a lot of this is going to be determined by Stanley's cost and what the Ravens front office perspective is. I would like him back. I don't know about you, but there in the back of my mind is also a thought that, we got an injury riddled 2023, a really good 2024, and then a similar looking result in 2022 when he did return from injury in week 5. From a commitment standpoint, even though he's only 31 years old and he would clearly start for us in 2025, that's obvious. I don't know that we want to commit 16, 18, 20 million a year that who knows, someone might offer him out there in free agency. There will be requisite talent at 27 and 59 to help with the offensive line. I think we missed the boat last year on offensive line talent. I will give you an example, and there's more than just this one. I can think of 2 others. Here's the reason why I know of this one, because he plays for the Lions. I don't know if you're real aware of this. Kevin Zeitler did not play in the Lions' playoff loss to the Commanders. Christian Mahogany played extremely well, other than, I think, 2 reps. He was a round 6 pick. In fact, he's on the board when we drafted Rasheen Ali. Mahogany did go off the board at 210, and we selected Devin Leary 8 picks later. Huge missed opportunity to get a guy who can play in the future. Well, he played as a rookie, and in fact, in a small sample size, played extremely well. Started at left guard late in the season, I believe their win over the Vikings, and played great, and then played in the playoff game at right guard against the Commanders. I think the need now for offensive line is more severe, more obvious, I guess, especially with Stanley's pending free agency. Teams are going to look at the film of Stanley and judge accordingly. Do I think that he could go help a contender? Absolutely. I absolutely do. Do I think he is a shutdown left tackle right now that we should be paying top 10, top 14 money to? I don't know that we can afford to, number one. Number two, given his injury history, I have to say that the answer is probably no. We should part ways. But that's going to be pending the market, what's out there for Stanley, what other teams see, where other teams are sitting in the draft. I'm quite sure that the Ravens front office has a really good handle on it, obviously better than we do, myself included. What the chances are, I will give you an example of a player for the draft that I like, and I think it's pretty obvious. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State looks like a great option in that he's a guy who can play either guard and has also moved to tackle later in their season. He's not scheme dependent either. He's capable of moving people on down blocks or combos. Essentially, for me, his floor as a rookie would be comparable to what we would expect to get out of Macari on a weekly basis. They're just more talented, number one, stronger, number two. And look, I could be overestimating what a rookie could do on day one. My point is, we wouldn't need to look at certain guys so early. We would have less conflict at 27 and 59 if we had stacked up on some of the offensive line talent and depth that was there last year, Mahogany being one of the examples, even though he's a little bit of an outlier in that he should have been drafted before round 6. There was injury concerns. In any case, I used Mahogany last year and Donovan Jackson as examples here of guys that we could draft and move around left guard, left tackle in the case of Donovan Jackson, depending on injury. But 27 is going to be contentious. I get it. There'll be multiple opinions. But once again, we as fans will have to wait that night to see what the Ravens do until later in the draft. I think they do need to address offensive line before the draft, at least one of those positions, so we're not so predictable. if we're predictable and there's a great player sitting there, someone could jump in front of us to get a guy that they perceive we desire at 27 or even 59. I hope all of this makes sense. I'm still navigating number one, how to produce content with the film going to be hit by YouTube's algorithm so quickly. We'll see how long that continues and how that impacts what I'm able to produce in the offseason. My focus, my blueprint, regardless, is offensive line. Is there defensive needs out there? Sure, I agree. We got question marks at corner. Brandon Stevens, like I said, I'm out there. Safety, we would like to pick up someone high level in the draft. Inside linebacker has got to be focused on developing Simpson. I would be okay if we brought back one of Board or Harrison, but not both, to create depth and consistency. But in my opinion, getting Simpson game ready's got to be the priority. It's a little bit hypocritical, if you ask me, to watch the film of him earlier in the year, make some mistakes at times, sure. Splash plays, also cover well. Great play, two great plays in week 1 against the Chiefs. We essentially pull him off the field at a certain point, but we live with the mistakes by Macari and Falele week in and week out with no option to rotate Cleveland or Voorhees once he came back. That's the hypocrisy that I mentioned. But in any case, O-line is the focus because I perceive the pattern of the playoffs to be a more conservative approach, one that is ball control in essence and focuses on not turning the football over. You do need a high-level defense in order to get that accomplished. I think our defense played extremely well, probably a top 5 defense from week 11 onward. You're welcome to debate that or let me know how inaccurate that is in the comment section. I think the option to play those styles offensively is directly related to the quality of offensive line that you can produce. Are there drives, situations where we need Lamar to go hero mode, make plays, other guys to get things done? Absolutely. Am I saying we should run the ball 45 times a game? No. I'm saying we should retain the option to. And this year, teams could, like the Bills in the first half against us, limit or take away our run game because of the inconsistency of our offensive line. We want to be playing football 1 year from now, headed to the Super Bowl, rooting for our team to get a win and Lamar get his first championship. I think offensive line is the biggest barrier to making that happen. You're welcome to disagree in the comment section, but I think we can produce safer, yet still productive plays if we have a dominant or near dominant offensive line up front that can pave the way for Derrick Henry and protect Lamar Jackson as long as possible. You're welcome to give me some feedback on my thoughts in the comment section, number 1. Number 2, if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy some of my thoughts as to how the Ravens can still be playing football 12 months from today, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.